Most men are taught the same lie. That if you chase hard enough, love will stay. That effort guarantees connection. That persistence will eventually be rewarded. So they run. They explain. They wait. They give more than they receive. And slowly, they lose themselves. But there comes a moment, quiet, uncomfortable, irreversible, when a man realizes something has been wrong all along. The more he chased, the less he was chosen. The more he explained, the less he was respected. The more he feared losing, the less he was valued. This is not a story about becoming cold. It is a story about becoming clear. About the day a man stops asking for attention and starts choosing alignment. Because the most powerful shift in a man's life is not when he is finally chosen, but when he no longer needs to be. Stay with me. What follows is not advice. It is experience. Welcome to the channel, Stoic Love Wisdom. This is where you will find valuable lessons and tips to help you build a truly lasting love. In today's video, we will explore 7 things that happen when men stop chasing and start being selective, with real stories and insight. Don't miss the advice that can change the way you perceive and live in love. You will definitely feel more comfortable when you find a quiet place and put on your headphones. Let yourself relax and be ready to receive the positive messages in today's video. Are you ready to start this journey? Let's start together. Number 1. He stops chasing attention, and starts respecting himself. There was a time when I believed love was something you pursued. That if you showed enough effort, enough patience, enough presence, someone would eventually see your value. So I chased. I replied fast. I explained myself. I tried to be understood. I tried to be chosen. And I lost myself in the process. A man who is still chasing attention believes something dangerous. That his worth depends on another person's response. A man who has lived long enough knows better. When a man stops chasing attention, it is not because he has become cold. It is because he has become clear. He understands that attention can be given without respect. That affection can exist without commitment. That interest can be temporary, emotional, and misleading. Stoic philosophy teaches one simple rule. Do not hand over your inner peace to things you cannot control. Attention is one of those things. You cannot control how much someone texts you back. You cannot control their mood, their interest, their readiness. And the moment you start chasing those things, you place your emotional balance in their hands. A man who stops chasing attention has learned this the hard way. He has experienced the silence after effort. He has felt the exhaustion of trying to prove his worth. He has seen how quickly attraction fades when it is fueled by need. So he chooses something else. He chooses self-respect. Self-respect means he no longer performs for validation. He no longer explains his value to people who are unsure about him. He no longer competes for affection. Not because he thinks he is better, but because he knows what it costs to abandon himself. This is where most people misunderstand Stoic love. They think detachment means indifference. It does not. Stoic love means loving without begging, caring without clinging, being present without losing control over your dignity. When a man stops chasing attention, something subtle changes. His words become fewer, but heavier. His silence becomes intentional, not resentful. He speaks when he has something meaningful to say, not when he fears being forgotten. And paradoxically, this is when attention often returns. Not because he demanded it, but because he no longer needed it. People can feel need from miles away. Need creates pressure. Pressure kills desire. A calm man sends a different signal. I am complete with or without you. That sentence is never spoken. It is felt. And here is the uncomfortable truth most men avoid. If someone only values you when you chase them, they never valued you, they valued the power they had over you. A man who has experienced this once never forgets it. So he stops chasing attention, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. He understands that love chosen freely is the only love worth having. Anything else is a transaction fueled by insecurity. From a Stoic perspective, attention is external. Character is internal. And a man who has mastered his inner world no longer wastes energy chasing external approval. He builds his life. He sharpens his mind. He strengthens his body. He cultivates silence. If someone walks beside him, good. If they walk away, he remains standing. That is not arrogance. That is sovereignty. And the moment a man reclaims that sovereignty, he stops chasing attention and starts attracting respect. Number 2. He becomes mysterious, not by strategy, but by substance. When a man stops chasing, something unexpected happens. He becomes mysterious. Not because he is playing games. Not because he is trying to appear unavailable. But because he no longer feels the need to explain himself to be accepted. In his earlier years, a man often confuses transparency with value. He overshares. He reveals too much, too soon. He believes being fully open will create connection. What he learns later is this. Mystery is not created by hiding, it is created by depth. A man who has nothing happening in his life must talk constantly to be noticed. A man who is building something meaningful does not. Silence, when it is full, speaks louder than words. Stoicism does not teach secrecy. It teaches restraint. The Stoic man understands that not every thought deserves expression. Not every emotion deserves reaction. Not every question deserves an immediate answer. This restraint gives him gravity. People sense when a man is internally occupied, not with anxiety, but with purpose. His pauses are not empty. They are weighted with intention. This is where curiosity begins. When a man is no longer chasing attention, others start leaning in. They begin to wonder what holds his focus. What anchors his calm. Why he seems unaffected by the usual emotional turbulence. And this curiosity is powerful. Because it is voluntary. Unlike attraction born from pursuit, which is forced and fragile. Attraction born from mystery is earned through observation. The Stoic man does not perform intimacy. He allows it to unfold. He understands that connection deepens through shared moments, not constant explanation. That trust grows when words match actions, not when emotions are constantly verbalized. In love, this creates a rare dynamic. The other person feels free, not pressured. Interested. Not overwhelmed. Drawn in, not chased. This is the kind of attraction that lasts. And yet, there is a misunderstanding that must be addressed. Being mysterious does not mean being emotionally unavailable. It means being emotionally self-governed. The Stoic man feels deeply. He simply does not let his feelings control his behavior. He does not chase clarity when uncertainty is present. He observes. He does not demand reassurance. He offers consistency. He does not rush intimacy. He lets it mature. This patience separates him from the crowd. Most men are predictable in their urgency. They seek quick validation. They fear silence. They panic when momentum slows. The Stoic man welcomes stillness. Stillness reveals truth. If someone loses interest because he did not overextend, they were never aligned with his depth. And he accepts that without resentment. Because mystery is not a tactic to keep someone hooked. It is a natural result of a life that is full. A man who has learned this truth does not need to create intrigue. He embodies it. His presence says, "I am not empty. I am not desperate. I am not chasing." And that presence invites something far more valuable than attention. Respectful curiosity. This is when relationships shift from superficial excitement to something slower, steadier, and real. The Stoic man understands that the strongest connections are not built in noise, but in silence that feels safe. So he does not fear being misunderstood by those unwilling to look deeper. He remains still, because what is meant for him will recognize substance, even when it is quiet. In love, sometimes we don't need too many promises, but just a little understanding and a heart that knows how to listen. It is the experiences, both happy and sad, that help us mature and know how to love more fully. Here, I want to contemplate those things with you, so that each step in the journey of love becomes more clear-headed and peaceful. If you feel that what I share is valuable, please click like to support this video. And if this is your first visit, please click subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss the next insightful perspectives on love. I also really want to hear from you. What do you like most about today's story? Leave a comment below, because who knows, your experience might be a great source of encouragement for someone else who is listening. And now, let's continue to explore what's waiting for you. Number 3. He sets standards, not conditions. There is a moment in a man's life when he realizes that love without standards is not love. It is tolerance disguised as devotion. In his younger years, he accepted almost anything in the name of connection. Mixed signals. Disrespect softened by charm. Inconsistency excused as complex emotions. He told himself he was being understanding. What he was really doing was abandoning his boundaries. A man who has lived long enough learns the difference between conditions and standards. Conditions are manipulative. They say, "I will love you if you become what I want." Standards are principled. They say, "This is what I require to remain present." The Stoic man does not try to change people. He observes them. He understands a fundamental Stoic truth. People reveal who they are through patterns, not promises. So he watches behavior, not words. Consistency, not intensity. Effort, not excuses. Setting standards is not about control. It is about clarity. When a man sets standards, he no longer negotiates his self-respect for emotional comfort. He no longer lowers his expectations just to avoid loneliness. He would rather be alone than be slowly diminished. This is where many relationships collapse, and rightly so. Because when standards appear, illusion disappears. People who benefited from your tolerance will accuse you of changing. They will say you are distant, rigid, or demanding. The Stoic man does not argue. He knows that boundaries feel like rejection to those who never respected them. His standards are simple, but firm. Mutual respect. Emotional accountability. Honesty without manipulation. Peace over drama. Nothing excessive. Nothing cruel. Just non-negotiable. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Most people are not rejected, they disqualify themselves. A man with standards does not threaten, plead, or explain repeatedly. He states what he values once, calmly. If those values are ignored, he steps back. Not as punishment. As alignment. Stoicism teaches that suffering comes not from events, but from false judgments. One of the most damaging false judgments is believing that love requires endurance of disrespect. It does not. Love requires alignment of values. When a man begins to choose alignment over attachment, something profound happens. His relationships become fewer, but deeper. Quieter, but safer. Slower, but real. He stops chasing potential and starts choosing reality. This shift is deeply unsettling to people who are used to emotional chaos. They mistake stability for boredom, boundaries for coldness. The Stoic man does not correct them. He understands that not everyone is meant to meet him where he stands. And that is not a loss. Because standards are not meant to impress others. They are meant to protect your inner order. A man without standards will accept anything and call it love. A man with standards will accept only what does not require self-betrayal. This is why his presence feels different. There is no anxiety in his affection. No fear behind his silence. No desperation behind his interest. He offers himself fully, but only where he is met with equal integrity. And if that meeting does not happen, he leaves without drama. Without resentment. Without needing closure from someone who never honored him. That is Stoic love. Not loud. Not possessive. But grounded in self-command. Because the man who knows his standards does not fear losing people. He fears losing himself. And he never makes that mistake twice. Number 4. His time becomes sacred, and he no longer wastes it. There comes a point in a man's life when he realizes that time is not something he has. It is something he is. Every hour given away carelessly is an hour of his life he will never reclaim. In his earlier years, he spent time freely, almost recklessly. He waited. He lingered in uncertainty. He invested attention where there was no return. He called it hope. What it really was avoidance of solitude. The Stoic man sees time differently. Stoicism teaches that life is not short, we make it short by wasting it. When a man stops chasing and begins choosing, his relationship with time changes immediately. He no longer gives endless availability to people who offer partial presence. He no longer waits in emotional limbo for clarity that never comes. He no longer schedules his life around someone who has not chosen him. This is not coldness. This is precision. A man who values his time values himself. Time, to a Stoic, is the most honest currency. You cannot fake it. You cannot borrow it. You can only spend it. And once a man understands this, he becomes careful about where he invests it. He invests time in his physical strength, his mental discipline, his craft and purpose, his inner stillness. Relationships are no longer the center of his universe. They become a complement to a well-ordered life. This shift is powerful and unsettling. People who were used to his constant availability feel the absence immediately. They call it distance. He calls it alignment. The Stoic man does not rush intimacy to fill empty space. He does not stay in conversations that drain him. He does not entertain dynamics that require him to shrink. Because he understands something most people never stop to consider. Every moment spent with the wrong person is a moment stolen from the right life. When a man honors his time, he also changes how he shows up in love. He is present, fully present, but not endlessly accessible. He listens, deeply. But does not linger in confusion. He commits, intentionally, not impulsively. There is weight to his presence now. Because scarcity gives value. Not manufactured scarcity. But natural scarcity that comes from a full life. The Stoic man does not say, "I am busy," to appear important. He is busy, becoming who he respects. And here is the paradox. When a man stops centering his life around relationships, his relationships improve. There is less pressure. Less emotional bargaining. Less need for reassurance. Love becomes something shared, not something chased. Stoicism reminds us that attachment to outcomes creates suffering. Attachment to process creates peace. So the Stoic man invests his time in processes he can control. He controls his effort, his discipline, his character. He does not control whether someone stays. And that no longer terrifies him. If someone walks away because he is no longer endlessly available, they were never there for him. Only for his attention. He accepts this without bitterness. Because the man who protects his time protects his future. He understands that one day, all time will be gone. And the only thing that will matter is how intentionally he lived. So he chooses carefully. He loves deliberately. And he walks away early from anything that asks him to waste his life. That is not detachment. That is reverence. Number 5. He no longer fears loss, because he has mastered himself. Fear of loss is the quiet force behind most unhealthy attachment. In his early years, a man does not realize this. He thinks he is afraid of losing her. What he is really afraid of is losing the version of himself that feels chosen, validated, and seen. So he clings. He compromises. He tolerates uncertainty longer than his dignity allows. Loss, to him, feels like failure. The Stoic man sees it differently. Stoicism teaches one of its hardest truths early. Everything external is temporary. People leave. Feelings change. Circumstances shift. Resisting this reality creates suffering. Accepting it creates freedom. When a man truly understands impermanence, his fear of loss dissolves. Not because he stops caring, but because he stops confusing attachment with survival. He knows that nothing truly valuable can be taken from him without his consent. His character, his discipline, his self-respect. These things are internal. And the Stoic man builds his identity on what cannot be stolen. This is why he no longer begs for consistency. He does not panic when distance appears. He does not chase clarity from someone who is unsure. He observes. If someone stays, good. If they leave, he remains intact. This emotional independence is deeply misunderstood. Many mistake it for emotional coldness. It is not. The Stoic man feels deeply, but he is not ruled by his feelings. He allows loss to pass through him, not define him. He grieves, privately, honestly. Then he returns to order. Because he understands something most men learn too late. The fear of loss makes you lose yourself long before you lose anyone else. When a man is no longer afraid of loss, his behavior changes completely. He speaks truth without fear of abandonment. He sets boundaries without guilt. He walks away when values are violated, not when emotions are high. This calm detachment creates a powerful dynamic. People feel it immediately. They sense that he is not staying out of fear. He is staying by choice. And choice is the foundation of genuine love. The Stoic man does not threaten departure. He does not use absence as leverage. He simply knows that he will survive any ending with his integrity intact. This knowledge makes him dangerous, in the best sense of the word. Not aggressive. Not controlling. But unshakable. Stoicism teaches that suffering comes from wanting reality to be different than it is. The Stoic man releases this illusion. If someone chooses another path, he does not chase them into it. He bows inwardly and continues forward. Because he understands. Loss is not the enemy. Self-betrayal is. A man who no longer fears loss becomes rare. He is calm in uncertainty. Steady in conflict. Grounded in silence. And paradoxically, this is when people value him more. Not because he is unattainable. But because he is not afraid. He does not hold tighter when things feel fragile. He loosens his grip. And in that space, truth reveals itself. The Stoic man knows that what is meant to stay will not require fear to keep it. And what leaves was never his to control. So he walks lightly, loves honestly, and accepts loss as the price of living fully, not as a punishment. That is not weakness. That is mastery. Love is actually like a mirror reflecting the inner self. When we are calm enough, we will realize that every challenge, every silence carries a valuable lesson. And that is what I want to convey through each story on this channel. If you feel that these shares bring value, please leave a like to support the channel. And don't forget to subscribe, because who knows, one day, just a small idea from these videos can change the way you look at love, at yourself. Let's continue with me, because there are many interesting things waiting for you to discover. Number 6. Only the right ones remain, and he is at peace with that. There is a quiet season in a man's life that few talk about. It begins when he stops chasing. It deepens when he sets standards. And it becomes unmistakable when only a few people remain. At first, the silence feels heavy. The Stoic man remembers when his world was louder. More messages. More invitations. More emotional noise. But also more confusion. More compromise. More self-doubt. When he began choosing instead of pursuing, the crowd thinned. Not dramatically. Not with conflict. People simply fell away. This is where most men panic. They mistake solitude for failure. They believe fewer connections mean less value. The Stoic man knows better. Stoicism teaches that peace is not found in accumulation. It is found in alignment. When a man aligns his life with his values, only those who resonate can remain close. Everyone else drifts. And that is not cruelty. That is nature. The Stoic man does not resent those who leave. He does not chase them for explanations. He does not try to keep doors open that life is quietly closing. He understands that forced connection is a form of violence against the self. So he lets people go without ceremony. What remains is not emptiness. It is clarity. In this space, relationships transform. Conversations become slower. Silence becomes comfortable. Presence becomes intentional. There is no performance here. No emotional currency. No hidden agendas. Only mutual respect. The Stoic man would rather share one honest connection than maintain 10 hollow ones. This selective solitude sharpens him. Without constant distraction, he hears his own thoughts again. He notices patterns. He corrects weaknesses. He becomes grounded. And grounded men are rare. People who eventually enter this quieter life feel the difference immediately. They sense that he does not need them. And that paradoxically makes his presence more meaningful. Because need creates obligation. Choice creates sincerity. The Stoic man chooses carefully. He allows closeness slowly. He watches how people behave when things are inconvenient. He pays attention to how they handle boundaries. If someone brings chaos into his peace, he steps back. If someone brings calm, he opens the door wider. No drama. No speeches. Just alignment. This is not isolation. It is refinement. Like a sculptor removing excess stone. The Stoic man removes relationships that do not reflect his values. What remains is not loneliness. It is depth. And depth changes everything. There is trust here. There is safety. There is room to breathe. The Stoic man does not fear being alone. Because he has learned something most people never do. Being alone is far less painful than being surrounded by people who do not see you. So when only the right ones remain, He does not ask why there are so few. He asks whether they are real. And if the answer is yes, he is at peace. Because peace, to a Stoic, is not having many people around. It is having the right ones close. Number 7. He becomes the man women respect, without trying to be chosen. At the end of this transformation, something subtle but irreversible happens. The man is no longer asking, "Do you like me? Am I enough? Will you stay?" Those questions disappear, not because he has all the answers, but because he no longer needs permission to stand where he stands. This is where true respect begins. Not admiration. Not infatuation. But respect. And respect is different. Respect is quiet. It is steady. It does not rush. It does not need constant reassurance. A man who has stopped chasing, set standards, honored his time, released fear of loss, and accepted selective solitude becomes something rare. He becomes self-contained. Women feel this immediately. They sense that he is not performing masculinity. He is not trying to impress. He is not adjusting his values to be more desirable. He is simply rooted. And rooted men are difficult to manipulate, rush, or destabilize. This is where many misunderstand attraction. They think women stay because of charm, intensity, or emotional fireworks. Those things create sparks. They do not build trust. What keeps a woman is not how much a man wants her, but how solid he is without her. The Stoic man does not place a woman at the center of his identity. He invites her into a life that already has structure. This changes the entire dynamic. There is no emotional burden placed on her to complete him. No silent expectation to save him from emptiness. No pressure to constantly reassure his worth. Instead, there is space. And in that space, respect grows. Because respect is born when a woman realizes, if I walk away, he will not collapse. If I stay, it will be by choice, not guilt. This knowledge is powerful. The Stoic man does not dominate. He does not withdraw to create fear. He does not play absence as a tactic. He simply does not abandon himself. And that is what commands respect. He speaks clearly. Acts consistently. Leaves when alignment is gone. Stays when values are shared. No theatrics. No proving. Stoicism teaches that the highest form of power is self-command. And the man who commands himself does not need to control anyone else. Women may admire many men. They may desire many men. But they respect the one who cannot be shaken by approval or rejection. This man is not perfect. He is not emotionally numb. He still feels longing, disappointment, connection. The difference is this. His emotions do not dictate his actions. And that stability creates safety. Safety creates trust. Trust creates depth. Depth creates lasting connection. By the time a man reaches this stage, he is no longer asking what women want. He is asking, does this connection honor my peace? Does it align with my values? Does it allow me to remain whole? If the answer is yes, he opens himself fully. If the answer is no, he walks away, calmly. And here is the final truth of Stoic love. When a man stops trying to be chosen, he becomes the man others choose freely. Not because he chased. Not because he convinced. But because he stood still long enough to be seen. That is not seduction. That is presence. That is the quiet authority of a man who has mastered himself. And therefore needs nothing from anyone to feel complete. Conclusion. When a man stops chasing, the world does not end. It becomes clearer. He learns that love was never meant to be pursued at the cost of dignity. And connection was never meant to be bought with self-abandonment. By choosing instead of chasing, he reclaims his center. He no longer measures his worth by attention received. Nor does he confuse intensity with intimacy. He understands that what comes easily but leaves quickly was never meant to stay. Stoic love is not about withdrawing from emotion. It is about governing it. It is about standing firm in who you are. Even when the outcome is uncertain. Especially when the outcome is uncertain. This man does not fear silence. Because he has learned to live with himself. He does not fear loss. Because he no longer builds his identity on what can be taken away. He becomes selective, not out of arrogance. But out of respect for his time, his energy, and his inner peace. And in that selectiveness, something rare emerges. His relationships become fewer, but deeper. Quieter, but stronger. Free of performance, free of fear. The man who chooses does not ask to be understood by everyone. He does not seek approval from those who cannot meet him in clarity. He remains open, yet grounded. Capable of love, yet complete without it. And this is the quiet truth few are willing to accept. When you stop chasing what is not aligned, you create space for what is. Not all men will walk this path. It requires solitude, honesty, and the courage to stand alone. But for the man who does, love stops being a struggle and becomes a meeting of equals. Not driven by need. Not sustained by fear. But chosen, calmly, consciously, and freely. Thank you for taking the time to watch today's video. Hopefully the sharing about love and lessons from this video will help you have new thoughts and find empathy. If you find the video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and share with those around you. Each of us has our own stories about love, and I'm happy to explore them with you. See you in the next videos. Wishing you a wonderful day filled with love.